It was on a night so rainy it was almost impossible for Jack to see the road. His windshield wipers worked way overtime but almost felt useless. Perfect, Jack muttered, gripping the wheel. Just me, the rain, and a car that smells like some old fries. A little further down the road, his headlights caught the attention of something. It was a woman, but wait, it wasn't just a woman, there was a kid too, and boy, did they look miserable. Jack, assuming they needed some kind of help, slowed down. He didn't want to, but what if they desperately needed help? His mind kept debating. They could be killers, he muttered, or even worse, chatty. He sighed and rolled down his window, letting the rain blow in and wet the interior of his car. You need a ride? The woman turned to him, her hair dripping, her face pale. She nodded quickly. Please, our car broke down and there's no signal here. Jack took a look at the kid. He sure looked like he wanted to be anywhere but here. The boy held onto a stuffed dinosaur as if it might save him from the storm. Jack unlocked the doors. Hop in, but fair warning, I charge a sarcasm tax. Thank you, the woman said. I'm Rachel and this is Caleb. We've been stuck for hours. Jack, he said, keeping his eyes on the road. And you're lucky I came by right now, aren't you? Jack noticed the woman clearly looked worried. He then tried to break the silence and asked, So, what's the deal? Running away from something? Rachel hesitated, her hand gripping the seatbelt as tight as she could. Something like that, she said softly, her voice so faint. If you've enjoyed the story so far, don't forget to like and subscribe for more thrilling adventures. Jack then raised an eyebrow. Not exactly reassuring. You're not fugitives or anything, are you? Because I really don't want trouble. Rachel chuckled, but it sounded hollow. No, nothing like that. Just leaving a bad situation behind. Jack looked at Caleb, who was staring out the window, completely silent. This kid hadn't made a single sound. Your kid's pretty quiet, Jack said, trying to sound casual. Shy or just scared I'll start singing off key? He kept trying to break the ice. Rachel looked over at Caleb and smiled faintly. He's just tired. It's been a really long day. Jack knew something felt really off, but he couldn't put his finger on it. So, where am I taking you? Anywhere with a motel, Rachel said quickly. We just need somewhere to stay for tonight. Jack smirked. Well, you're in luck. There's a motel about 10 miles up the road. I hear it's only mildly sketchy. Rachel nodded. That's all right, thank you. They drove in complete silence, with only the sounds of the moving car and the muffled sound of the pouring rain from outside for a while, the rain pounding on the car like it was trying to attack it. Jack couldn't help but glance at Rachel every now and then. She looked nervous, her fingers tapping against her leg. Caleb, on the other hand, looked too calm. That child had surely gone through something. Jack cleared his throat again. So, what's in the trunk? You're not smuggling exotic animals, are you? Because I have a very strict no mongoose policy. Rachel blinked, then shook her head. Just clothes. Aha, Jack said, not entirely convinced. You're definitely running away from something, though. It's kinda obvious. Rachel didn't respond, but her grip on the seatbelt tightened. Jack decided to let it go. He wasn't about to pry into someone else's problems, especially when they had no interest in talking about it. They finally reached the motel, a rundown place with a flickering neon sign that said vacancy. Jack pulled into the parking lot and turned off the engine. Well, here we are. The height of luxury, he said, gesturing at the peeling paint and cracked windows. Don't spend all your money at the vending machine, okay, kid? Rachel smiled faintly. Thank you, Jack. I can't thank you enough. No problem, Jack said, though he hesitated for a moment. You sure you're gonna be okay here? Rachel nodded quickly. We'll be fine, really. Jack took a look at Caleb one last time. The boy finally met his gaze, and for a split second, Jack thought he saw something strange in his eyes, something older, something unusual. But before he could think too much about it, Caleb looked away. All right, Jack said, opening the door. Good luck, and try not to get struck by lightning on their way inside. Rachel laughed softly, then got out of the car, taking Caleb along with her. Jack watched as they disappeared into the motel, the rain swallowing them up. As he drove away, he couldn't stop his mind from trying to shake the feeling that he'd just stepped into something a lot more than just a woman and a child being stranded on the road. As the story unfolds, he'll realize he just stumbled upon a dark mystery. The morning had come, and next Jack's unease still lingered like a bad hangover he couldn't get rid of. He couldn't even manage to get a full night's sleep, and now he found himself staring at a black van parked right in front of his apartment. The van was nothing out of the ordinary, just a plain black vehicle, but there was something about it that set off alarms in his head. But then again, the guy was too tired. "Not today," Jack muttered, shaking his head as he grabbed his keys and stepped outside. He didn't want to let his imagination run wild, but this was the kind of thing that definitely made you anxious. The kind of thing you'd normally shrug off as a coincidence if it didn't keep happening, but this time, it felt different. He felt like he was being stalked. The van was still there when he left, parked across the street. He tried to ignore it, but as he drove to work, he couldn't stop thinking about the feeling that it was following him. It was subtle at first, just a black van trailing behind, keeping a few car lengths distance. Jack figured it was probably a coincidence. This was the road that people drove on all the time, right? Can't be anything fishy here, thought to himself. But then the van followed him even to the grocery store, then to the gym. Jack had made a mental note to park far away from the entrance, hoping it would discourage whoever was tailing him. He wasn't in the mood for being stalked today. By the time Jack had finished his workout and walked outside, the van was still there, parked right outside the gym too, this time like it had been waiting for him. Now this was something he couldn't ignore any longer. His unease grew into something heavier, something that felt scary. It even started making him feel sick to the stomach. "Alright, that's it," Jack muttered, trying to act casual. "Who the hell is this?" He walked out of the gym, doing his best to seem nonchalant, but he couldn't help glancing over his shoulder every few steps. The van hadn't moved one bit. He pulled out his phone and pretended to text someone while his mind began to race. The license plate was a jumble of letters and numbers, but he made sure he memorized it. What the hell's going on? Jack thought to himself, tightening his grip on his phone as he fumbled with his keys. It was all starting to feel like a really bad thriller movie. That night, after a long day, Jack collapsed onto his couch with a beer. He tried to relax, to forget about the strange van that seemed to have made it his mission to stalk him, but it constantly bothered him because what good reason could they possibly have to follow him? His thoughts kept circling back to it. What was going on? Why was this van following him? It was insane. It was crazy. But somehow, it didn't feel like a coincidence anymore. At 2 a.m., when the world outside was quiet, Jack was jolted awake by the sound of honking. He shot out of bed, heart racing. What the hell? Glancing out the window, there it was, the black van sitting across the street, headlights on. It was like the van had been waiting for him. Its headlights cut through the darkness like a spotlight, illuminating the otherwise desolate street. "This is madness," Jack muttered, grabbing his shoes and throwing them on. His pulse was hammering in his ears. There was no way he could just go back to bed after this. He grabbed his jacket and stepped outside. The cool night air hit his face, but boy, it sure didn't do anything to calm him down. The van sat motionless across the street, staring back at him. It was pretty unnerving. For a few seconds, Jack just stood there, watching. He wasn't sure of what he had to do at that moment. He didn't want to provoke anyone, but he couldn't just stand there like an idiot. His gut told him something was wrong. Something about this wasn't okay at all. He made a slow circle around his car, keeping his eyes trained on the van. The van didn't move. It just sat there, parked on the street like a predator watching its prey. After what felt like an eternity, Jack turned to go back inside. The street was empty again, no sign of life except for that damn van. But before he could take a single step, the van's headlights flicked off. Jack froze. The van was moving, slowly, almost like it was stalking him. He couldn't breathe for a moment. His hand clutched the keys in his pocket, his heart pounding against his ribs. This was no longer just paranoia, this was something more. "Alright, that's enough," Jack whispered, his heart beating faster. His pulse raced as he fumbled with his phone. He quickly typed out a text to Rachel. "Hey, this might sound ridiculous, but there's a black van that's been following me all day. I don't know what's going on, but it's starting to freak me out. Any idea what's happening?" The phone buzzed in his hand just a few seconds later. Jack quickly glanced at the screen. "Jack, get out of there, now." Definitely wasn't the message he was expecting. His blood ran cold. His hand shook slightly as he read the message again, just to make sure it wasn't some kind of mistake. But it was already clear. It wasn't a joke. Rachel was serious. Something was terribly wrong. "The van's not just following you, it's after you." Jack's breath caught in his throat. He stared at the message, trying to make sense of it. This wasn't just some coincidence. This was real. Something was out there after him, and it was not going to stop until it got what it wanted. But then again, what did they want? But there was no time to stand there thinking of it. Without another thought, Jack bolted for the door. His mind was racing, his thoughts scattered. He didn't have a plan and didn't know even where he was going. All he knew was that he couldn't stay here, not with the van creeping down the street like a shadow. He reached his car, heart hammering in his chest, and glanced over his shoulder one last time. The van was moving again. It looked like it was inching down the street. Its headlights cutting through the darkness almost felt like a predator hunting its prey. Jack's grip tightened on the door handle, and he slammed the car into gear, speeding away. The next few days were filled with tension. Jack couldn't shake the feeling that someone or something was always watching him, and that's a horrible feeling we wish no one has to go through. The van wasn't just a creepy coincidence anymore. It was a presence, a constant shadow that followed him wherever he went. He started taking the long way to work, hoping to get rid of it, but it always seemed to be there, waiting for him at every turn. He couldn't escape it, and the more he tried to ignore it, the more it consumed his thoughts. One afternoon, after another unsuccessful attempt to evade the van, Jack found himself sitting at his desk at work, staring at his computer screen, his mind racing. His phone buzzed, cutting through the silence like a shot. "We need to talk." Guess who it was? None other than Rachel. Jack had been expecting it. He wasn't surprised anymore. After the terrifying warning the night of the van's first appearance, he knew things were only going to get worse. He quickly typed a reply. "Where? When?" "I'll come to you. Just don't let anyone see you." The message was sent, and Jack's heart flipped. He could feel his heart pounding in his chest as he glanced nervously at the door. What the hell was this all about? What kind of trouble had he gotten himself into? A few hours later, Rachel showed up at his office, looking over his shoulder like she was afraid someone might see her. Jack motioned her into his office, and she shut the door behind her. Her face looked paler than it was the first time. "Tell me everything," Jack said, his voice shaking slightly. His mind was still uneasy from the events of the past week, and he couldn't help but feel like he was way over his head. Rachel took a deep breath, exhaling, like she was bracing herself for what she was about to say. "I wasn't entirely truthful with you earlier," she began, her voice trembling slightly. "That van is not just some random stalker. It's part of something bigger, something much worse and far more dangerous, and you've already been sucked into it." Jack blinked, his heart stopping. "What the hell are you talking about?" Rachel gulped and dropped her voice to a whisper. "It's a cult, and they're after Caleb." "Caleb?" Jack repeated, confused. "What does Caleb have to do with any of this?" "Caleb is gone," Rachel said, slowly choosing her words carefully. "They believe he's the chosen child." She shuddered. "The cult thinks he has some kind of power. They might be crazy, but they see something in him and they want to keep him. And when they saw you helping us, they decided you were a threat. You've been marked." Jack's stomach churned. "So, the van, it's part of the cult. Following me because of Caleb?" Rachel nodded grimly. "Yes, and they won't stop until they know they fully have a hold on him." Jack ran a hand through his hair, trying to process everything. "I don't understand. Why the hell did you tell me all this before? You've had me running scared for days, and now you tell me this?" "I didn't want to involve you," Rachel said, her voice crackling with guilt. "But now they know you're connected to us. There's no way out. You're already in trouble, Jack, and there's no turning back." Jack stood up abruptly, pacing the small office. "So what do we do now? Just wait for them to show up and kill us all?" He sure was pretty disturbed, and honestly, who wouldn't be? Rachel shook her head. "No, we have to confront them, but we can't do it alone." Jack paused, his mind whirling. "What do you mean?" Rachel hesitated for a moment before speaking again. "I know someone, a detective who can help. Her name is Sarah Bennett. She's been investigating the cult for years, and she's been trying to shut them down, but she needs someone on the inside, someone who can get close to them." Jack raised an eyebrow. "And let me guess, you think I'm the right person for that job?" "I know it sounds insane," Rachel said, "but right now you're the only one who can help. They're already watching you. They know you're involved, and they won't stop until they've got Caleb. You need to do this, for him, for all of us." Jack stared at Rachel for a long moment, his mind racing. The idea of confronting a dangerous cult and the people who had been stalking him for days was terrifying, but he couldn't walk away now, not after everything that had happened. He had already been dragged into this mess and there was no turning back. He didn't even have a choice anymore. "I don't know if I'm cut out for this," Jack muttered, his voice shaky. "I didn't want to have anything to do with this." "You don't have to be," Rachel said, her eyes locking onto his with fierce intensity. "You just have to be willing to fight, and right now that's all we can do." Jack swallowed hard, nodding slowly. "All right, whatever. Let's do it. But we need help. We need backup." Rachel smiled a small but relieved smile. "I already made the call. Detective Bennett will be here soon." Jack exhaled sharply, his heart racing. This was it. The moment when everything changed. The moment when he stopped being a passive observer and became a part of something far bigger than he ever imagined. Was he dreaming? As if on cue, the office door opened and a woman stepped inside. She was tall, wearing a leather jacket and a no-nonsense expression that immediately put Jack on edge. He could feel her eyes sizing him up as she walked in. Her sharp gaze didn't waver for a second. "You must be Jack," the woman said, her voice cool and authoritative. "I'm Detective Sarah Bennett. We need to talk." Jack felt his heart flip again, and for the first time in a long time he felt like he might be in over his head. The room felt smaller with Detective Sarah Bennett in it. She didn't sit, she didn't offer pleasantries, just stood by the door with a coolness that made Jack wish he had taken a few steps back, but he couldn't. This was it. The point of no return. He glanced at Rachel, who was already preparing herself for what would come next. Bennett's sharp eyes flicked between them. "I'm assuming you've both done your research on this cult? If not, I've got a few hours of horrifying reading I can share." Her voice had the dry edge of someone who had seen way too many nightmares to be shaken by anything. Jack couldn't stop thinking that she was already thinking 5 steps ahead while he was just trying to catch up. "So what now?" he asked, trying to steady his voice. "We just go after them?" "That's the idea," Bennett replied, unfazed. "But we need to be smart about this. The cult enforcers have been tracking Caleb for years. They don't just disappear when you show up with a few questions. We're dealing with people who don't hesitate to hurt others to get what they want, and they have resources we don't." "Great," Jack muttered. "So we're just outnumbered, outgunned, and out of options." He wasn't having a good time at all. Rachel glanced at him, a touch of nervousness creeping into her eyes. "Jack." "I'm just stating facts," Jack shot back. "I don't like it, but this is the reality we're facing, isn't it? Cults, vans, weird chosen children, and now we've got a detective to help. What could possibly go wrong?" Bennett raised an eyebrow, clearly taking in his sarcasm. "You've got a point," she said again, dryly, "but we don't have time to worry about all that. We need to make a move, and we need to do it fast." Jack's stomach twisted again. "Right, so what's the plan?" Bennett stepped closer, her posture exuding authority. "First things first. We track down their leader. We don't know his name, but we know he's the one pulling the strings. The van you've been seeing, that's what I've found to be his personal ride. His people follow him everywhere. We've got a shot at finding him, and when we do, we end this." "Track him down, huh?" Jack mused, rubbing his temples. "And how do we do that without getting ourselves killed? We're planning to make it out of this alive, aren't we?" "We'll need to be clever," Bennett said, glancing at Rachel. "You've been around them long enough to know their patterns. What can you tell me about them?" Rachel hesitated, looking at the floor for a moment as if gathering her thoughts. "They're always around Caleb. They have their own rituals. They believe in some kind of prophecy, and Caleb is part of it. I don't know the details, but I've seen them, these people. They believe in something bigger than just what's in front of them. They think Caleb is key to something huge." Jack leaned forward, trying to make sense of it. "So you're saying these people are willing to sacrifice anyone to get their hands on Caleb?" "Damn Caleb, you special one, ain't you?" Jack said, thinking of Caleb. Rachel's voice wavered as she spoke. "Yes, and that's why we need to stop them, now." Bennett nodded, clearly focused. "Right. We can't waste time with distractions. We need to figure out where they're hiding, and we need to get there before they do." Jack thought hard. "And what if we don't? What happens then?" "Let's not find out," Bennett replied, as sharp as ever. "You're involved now, Jack. You've got a target on your back, and they'll stop at nothing to make sure they get Caleb. You want to walk away, you can, but if you do, you're not walking away unscathed." A moment of silence hung in the room. Jack could feel the weight of her words pressing down on him, something he hadn't fully grasped until now. They were in this, all of them, whether they liked it or not. All right, Jack said, finally breaking the silence. I'm in, but we need more than just a plan. We need a strategy, something solid. Bennett smiled a grim, almost amused expression. That's the spirit. Here's what we'll do. We'll use you as bait. Jack blinked. Excuse me? You'll use me as a what now? You heard me, Bennett said, unfazed. You're already on their radar. The van follows you everywhere. You're already the bait. Now we're just putting a label on it, so we'll use that. We'll track the van's movements and see where it goes. Once we have a location, we move in. Let me get this straight. You want me to just walk into the lion's den? Jack asked, incredulous. It's not ideal, Bennett admitted, but it's our best shot. You already helped Rachel and Caleb. Now, we need you to help us finish it. The van will lead us to their hideout, and once we have that, we can make our move. Jack's head spun as he processed the plan. It sounded insane because it was, but he had no choice now. He was in this too deep, and the more he thought about it, the more it felt like the only way out. I'm not thrilled about being the bait, Jack said, shaking his head, but if it helps us get Caleb out of there. Bennett's eyes narrowed slightly. You don't get back out now, Jack. They're not going to give you that luxury. That very night, Jack does as is planned. He walks right into the main place of their ritual, that too unarmed. The members of the cult look absolutely surprised. Within minutes, Jack feels a blow behind his head. He was completely knocked out. But thanks to our detective Sarah here, she was quick enough to get Caleb out of there while also managing to drag Jack before they got him too. She brought all the support she could get and even disguised Rachel as one of her colleagues. The next time Jack opens his eyes, he's in an ambulance. He opens his eyes to see the blurry sight of 3 faces looking at him, both with worry and pride. You did it, buddy, says Detective Bennett. You're my hero, says Caleb, looking at him with his big green eyes. A tear streams down Rachel's face as she tries to speak. Jack, I'm forever grateful, and I knew God would send someone to get us out of trouble. She just continues crying while praying a prayer of gratitude to the Almighty. Jack suddenly feels a stinging pain in his head and he asks, how did I get here again? Oh, so you got hit real bad. And, well, you had a concussion, says Bennett. What? Jack exclaims. And then he sees something he hadn't seen before. Bennett's smiling. Then she goes on to say, yeah, well, let's hope we'll never have to use you as a bait again, yeah? She says sarcastically. The 3 of them laugh while Jack smirks at them, still trying to digest a whole incident that occurred out of nowhere in his very simple life. Did you enjoy this thrilling tale of unexpected heroism? Make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more exhilarating stories that keep you on the edge of your seat. And if you're eager for more captivating dramas that unfold in the skies, don't miss out on our previous heartwarming tale, and click that link now and dive into a story that'll leave you inspired and curious for more.